Orchard 1 started last week, and I see 8 p.m., so we must have talked about it. Jasmin, Matthew, working on RTL and fixing admin theme related issues. So the gray bar here is again admin theme, so Sipke working on that, fixing bugs one by one. Tokens, an admin theme, okay, and I10 from JumpV. So that's going on, good things. Then this one is, so the red bar is dev and the green is 110. Incorrect log message at indexing module. Was it? Maybe it was a PR. Yes, yeah, we were deleting things and we were writing added. So that's wrong, copy paste everywhere. Multi-tenancy mismatched ConnnectionString UI between and edit. Okay, so UI thing on 110. Core.Contents, verify type exists and create content. Correct, otherwise you could create any content from the admin, even if they are not listed, or create fake or ghost content types, because type was not checked, but it's only on the admin and if you have the permission, so that's fine. No, not if you have the permission, so you can create ghost type, so that's bad, but it's on the admin, so that's okay. Then Sipke fixing layouts because case insensitive types of elements. Then a bunch of fixes from Matthew, Sergio, and Anan. So Sergio added an optional regular expression to validate the text field element in dynamic forms. Okay. New feature from Matthew added a size property on the link entry if you want to create a custom link for a fav icon with custom sizes and the metadata. So now there is a first class property. You don't need to set the attributes directly, you can use this property. SSL missing setting. Yes, so the SSL banner, when the settings are not defined, were showing everywhere and not just on the admin, so I fixed it. Better wording. This one we discussed. That, the there instead of that. Okay, that's fine, we trust him. Rebracer updates, cached items are not evicted and removed. So this one we talked about during the meeting 2 weeks ago, and Alan fixed it. We also pulled this change on the replacing media items, image and OEmbed things. He demonstrated it to us 2 weeks ago. GroupInfo now doesn't generate routes with spaces because now it's using a toSafe name for the ID. Merge dev into merge 110x into dev, then fixing an issue with that, yeah, assigning the group ID is not necessary anymore because he's doing it correctly now. I fixed I ported the fix from Jean-Thierry about PostgreSql, which doesn't work with automatic migrations, to 110x because it was only applied on dev, and I matched back to dev. That's it for last week. Lots of activity. Okay, we had some weeks with almost no activity, and now again, Matthew, Sipke, and Jasmin are working hard, plus the others, on fixing everything. Question? Just a comment, let me see if it's still broken. It's still broken, so the CI doesn't work anymore. It's been like this for a month. Their server is down, they say they will change it. I think I will move to Aveyor, at least for some time, or eternally if it works fine, because we need CI at least to ensure nothing is broken when we do pull requests and push stuff, and it should be easy to set up. So I will try Aveyor on Orchard, and we use it for many other things. So we'll see. That's it for Orchard 1. Orchard 2. I pulled it this morning and ensured it was working because I wanted my demo to work for once. Let me check. Yeah, I should have the latest. Yeah, I haven't pushed some things from my work machine. Okay, that's fine. So 7 days. Here, fixing fields edition. Yeah, so last week I had done some refactoring. I think we talked about it. Yeah, refactoring about how the drivers and handlers work. So this was a little fix. Auth2. So Kevin is working on that still, and I just saw a pull request or a merge bumping OpenID version. So he's still working on that. This is a different branch, local branch, just to try to make the modular services work even without MVC. So you could have modules even without MVC, and that worked. So this is a branch for that, but I didn't merge it because so far we don't need that, but we'll see later. Fixing concurrency issues with resources. Yeah, I could get some exceptions on startup with resources, so now I made it a concurrent dictionary. Caching content part factory. Fixing generic content part updates. Generic content part updates, yes, so related to last week. Cleaning. Adding missing, updated, and updating, which were not called during the content manager, so now it's called. And also I'm using a different pattern for all these events, so important to notice here. When we have handlers, they are invoked in the handler that they are supposed to be invoked, okay, based on module dependency and priorities. But when I invoke the updated things, the after event, then I reverse them. Okay, so this way the last one will be the first to occur on the way back. This is the pattern that is used for middlewares, everywhere in ASP.NET, and also for filters. So I'm mimicking the same thing. It just has to be taken into account when we create modules. It's a deterministic order, but now it's the reverse as the invoke. Then reordering content handlers call, so and then I did that for all users to be consistent. Adding a Autoroute module. This is my demo. So I worked on Autoroute, and I will show you. On tokens, and I will show you. And then demo, update, and then I worked on 1.10 because there will be an ASP.NET Core 1.10 release at some point. Some packages have already been created, and I'm testing to see if there is nothing breaking in 1.10, because nothing should break in 1.10. I already found some issues, but issues in Orchard related to bug fixes in 1.10 that we need to take into account now. And some of you have voted for some bugs I found. If you haven't voted, please do so. Let me paste the link. I'm using my power here, but I'm not forcing you to vote for something. So this thing is interesting because so the issue is that at some point in Orchard 2, here, let me show you. It's also interesting to understand how it works as a reminder. So when we create a tenant, okay, a tenant has its own service provider with services. But there are services which are common to all the tenants. And how it works in Orchard is for each of the tenant services, we add the singletons for the common ones to all of them. So all of the tenant service collections will have the same instance of the service which is global to everyone, to every tenant, like the logger factory, like the iOrchard host is also common to every tenant. Okay, this is a singleton across tenants. It's not a singleton per tenant. So how we do that is we add the instance to the service collection. Okay, and this instance, because we created it, we are supposed to dispose it or handle the lifetime of this thing. But the DI in ASP.NET is disposing it when we dispose the service provider, and it should not do that. That's a bug. It was working in 1.0.0 for ASP.NET Core because this thing was still working if disposed, so we didn't see an issue. But now in 1.1.0, this thing will check that it hasn't been disposed when it calls its own methods. So now we see an issue. But the actual bug is that the DI should not dispose something we pass to it. And this is so they opened the issue this morning. And if you want to vote for it, that's fine. Oh, thank you, Antoine. Link master. Yep. I can still hear something. Is it me? That's weird. That's it. So about this. Zoltan! Who's this guy? Does anyone know Zoltan?
I know, right?
Let me introduce you to Zoltan. Fabulous coder on Orchard 1 that we've missed for the last 6 months.
Probably just 2 or 3.
No, much more. It feels for you like 2 or 3. For us, it felt like 1 year. Okay, so, or maybe that's okay. So that's about this issue. Then the demo, okay, with the new features. So Orchard is set up. This is the default homepage, just a test page from the demo module. The dashboard. I need to log in. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Change on my user machine. On my user machine, the name is at the top, so I need to check maybe breaking change. So I log in. So what I want to show you is Autoroute and Tokens. So I will create a new content type. I will call it article. I haven't tested on this machine, so I hope it will work. Otherwise, I will remote desktop to the other one. And you can see now the new Autoroute part. Identity was created last week. We talked about it. So I will say my article as a title, a body, and an Autoroute. Okay, save. It works, beautiful. Title at the top, Autoroute and body. And my article fields, I can put them at the bottom. That's fine, save. And if I create a new article, I will see my title, the permalink which can't be updated, and the body. I will go back to my content types and I can edit the article and edit the Autoroute property and say allow custom path. And by saying allow custom path, when I say article, I say 12. I can say article 12 and body article 12. And I publish. Okay. And if I go to my content items here, and if the link I click, you will see article 12 because the get item metadata will find thing. Well, at least rendering this route will find a correct thing, and it resolves it to the correct article. Okay, so it's both ways. It's about generating a nice URL for a content item and matching a nice URL to displaying a content item. Okay, so this works. This is Autoroute, and only what Autoroute does. Well, not just that, because auto route in route. So now if I go back to dashboard and I go to content types and you saw the property, I go to the auto route here, there is a pattern. I will disable that. I will yes, I will still do that because I want to clear it. So now I can do, I should have on my other machine I had the automatic auto thing. So example, I can use the slug. And this is the syntax for now. This is the handlebars syntax, and I will explain why. Some of you know. So save, and if I click new article, oh, can I edit the existing one? It will be easier. I will edit the existing one. If I just delete the permalink and I publish, it's generating it from the title. Okay, so if I change the title and I clear permalink, it will, oh, you see the bug here? Okay, fine, because of the space. Lots of bugs for sure because it's new. And if I go to, so publish, and if I go to content items, view, still works, okay, with a nice URL. So you can now type patterns in the Autoroute per type, like in Orchard 1, and there are other things that I did, like date format with a format, slash. So for instance, here I can use year, slash month, slash day, okay? And you can also use other things, like, so there are, right now, this is called a helper in handlebars. Okay, date format is one helper, slug is one helper, but you can also access the context of the current tokens. One of the values of the context is content, which is the current content item we are editing. And by doing content, it will try to do a toString to the content, which will be almost nothing interesting. But you can also do dots, because the context is an object. Content is a content item, so I can do dot content to have the dynamic version of the content item. Okay, and then access any part or anything from the content item. For instance, I can access the content item property of the content item. That's fine. That will work. And a content item property has a content item ID. And I assume I could actually do that this way. Let's see that, okay? Save, content items, edit, article 12. I go back to this one, and I publish, and you see year, month, date, slug, and then content item ID. This might be interesting, for instance, if you want, that's fine. You might want to do API things with the last segment, which will be the content item ID, up to you. But just to show you that you can reuse any property from the context directly, and I didn't have to implement anything. I will show you how it was done. I just assign content as an available context, and then if you do content dot something, it will do the C# thing of accessing the properties. Okay. So if we have a title part, which we have actually, we can do, this will be ugly, right? But we can do that. We can do content item, so content dot content item dot title part dot title. Save. New. So I will keep it simple because no, it didn't work. So I made something, but usually it works. Well, maybe it's my syntax which is wrong. But this is the ID. Content item. Oh, because content is a dynamic thing. Save. Content items, edit, clear that, publish. Yes, you see now it works. The slug and the title part, which are the same in this case. Okay. So you can do many things, and that will be much easier to do. So that's it. Let me see. Autoroute, yes, if you uncheck allow custom path, it will be read-only, but then we need a way to force the recomputation or recompute it every time in case we change the properties. That's fine. Another feature then, body. I will edit the body part, and now there is a property called render tokens in the body. And now if I go edit the article, for instance, okay, so you see now this one is now it's great. So if I hit the body, I can inject tokens now. I can inject date format. And the parameters to the helpers will be, is there a known format I could use with all the things? Or so if I go to content items, article, view, what's the issue here? Oh, it regenerated the thing. That's very bad. So view, and you can see here I will do F5, and every time the date is rendered because there is no caching. Okay, so inside the body now you can have tokens, but inside anything that will support tokens, that's trivial. So that's it. Content here, items, edit, and we can provide many more. Okay, it's about providing tokens. How it's done and why it's done. So something to know is that this thing starts a token, but actually in this case it's correct to use double braces, curly braces, but in the URLs it's actually better to use triple curly braces, because when we use double curly braces, it means it will be HTML encoded. So if we have any HTML entities in the result, they will be HTML encoded. And for URLs, it's wrong. So we should just say, okay, we know what format it will generate, so don't escape that in HTML. So this should be the actual value. But for the body, this makes sense because we want to generate HTML. So whatever is rendered by the token, it should be HTML encoded. And if we need to actually render something which should not be HTML encoded, like the thing that the C# code that renders that can say this is not HTML encoded. So there is a way to do everything with it. Questions? Is it something like shortcode? This is a shortcode somehow. And you can make the ones you want, even UI. Targeting the UI. Okay. Yeah, so it opens also ways to, let's say, have media. So when we insert a media in the body, we will now be able to inject a token like this to render the media. And this way we don't have to store the URL of the media, so that when we change the storage of the files, then it will be broken. Or we can also inject a media and then pass parameters or helpers to format it in a specific filter, like sizing, cropping, and so on. Create a module, inject content inside body. You can inject content inside body. Yes, yes. With a module, you can have your custom snippets to inject specific things. Yeah, I think WordPress does that a lot. Zoltan has more examples also using Liquid, because yes, in Shopify they do that a lot also with Liquid. So that's yep. This was already an option one. And this was not, it was done also, yeah, it's, yeah, but, or, yeah, and we, well, it was able, it's already in option one, yeah. But it's tokens, so it's more limited. Here there's much more ways to do things. For instance, so now let's talk code. What is that? Tokens. So there are two things: tokens, abstractions, and contents. So token abstractions is just the interface. Okay? Just the interface. Tokenize things with a context and a template. create view model to create a dynamic object to get context. It's using a shape internally. Well, it's using a composite, which is not exactly a shape, but it's a way to get a dynamic object that you can add properties on it very easily. Otherwise, you need to explicitly create an expander object and pass it to the context if you want to be able to pass multiple properties to the context object. There is a null tokenizer in the abstraction, so that when you reference the tokens abstractions in your module, then because you want to extend tokens, so that actually it's interesting because it's a new pattern compared to Orchard 1. In Orchard 1, what we will do is from a module like body, okay, body needs token. Well, body supports tokens, okay. If we don't have a tokenizer, that's fine. It needs to still work. So in Orchard 1, body will reference tokens and have a dependency on tokens, which means if you had body, you had to have tokens. Okay? The tokens module. Now in Orchard 2, there is abstractions, which contains only the interface. So body actually only references the abstraction one. Sorry, this one. Okay? And when it references it in its startup, it will say add null tokenizer. So that by default, if the tokens module is not enabled and there is no tokenizer service, there will be one service which will be the null one, which will do nothing. It's provided by the abstraction module. But then if you enable the tokens module, this tokens module will actually add a correct tokenizer. Because the add null tokenizer is try add singleton. It will try to add a null tokenizer only if there is none otherwise. And this one, the other one, will always add or replace anyone by this one, the actual tokenizer. Okay? So that's how it works. And this way, body doesn't have a dependency on the tokens module, just on the abstraction, saying if it's there, it's there. If it's not there, fine. I will call it, but it will be a no-op. Please interrupt me if there are questions. Not exactly the same thing, but yeah, you could still do the same thing.
So do you expect many modules to have their own abstractions, co-module?
If they are just helper modules, like providing features for other modules, yes. If that, you see what I mean? Like tokens is a service to provide to other modules. So the module should know if it can work without this other one. And if it's the case, let's do this thing. Example, maybe spam, maybe emails. So this way we don't have to embed to copy the tokens module with you when you deploy body. Not only copy, but also enable it.
You need to copy over the abstractions module.
Yes, but that is just the abstractions.
Yeah.
So, it's also very important in terms of evolution. Like if tomorrow we change the tokens module, we don't need to change all the other modules. We can just update the tokens module. We don't have to bump body to say use this new version. Or
it seems borderline. There are also disadvantages in doing that.
What?
We already have a lot of modules.
It's not a module. Yeah, it's not a module. I could move it somewhere else. It's not a module. It's a satellite assembly for tokens.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see before we ship if it's really painful. So far, it's been nicer for me for this module. And you see, like we have 20 modules here, and this is the only one to have an abstraction.
Is it more or less what was in core before?
What do you mean?
In Orchard 1, would that have been in core? Or would you have taken you would have taken a dependency to the whole module?
Yes and no. Because it was not in core, we thought about putting it in core because we are like, yeah, everyone is almost using tokens, so we need to put it in core.
Okay, fair enough.
But at the same time, tokens, we had to take dependency on the full tokens because it wasn't in core, the interface.
Okay, let's see where that goes.
Yeah, so tokens. So, and the big difference with Orchard 1 is that there is absolutely no code in the module. This thing is just actually calling handlebars. So handlebars, let me, or maybe first go on the Orchard 2 repo, look at the issues. I open this one. I ping some guys and tweeted maybe about it, talking about tokens, and people were suggesting things. The suggestions were from me and others, Jasmine, Zoltan. 3 of them, I looked at 3 of them, Dust, Handlebars, and Liquid. Dust, so most of them are JavaScript. So Handlebars is mostly JavaScript, Dust is JavaScript, and Liquid is, I think, maybe originally JavaScript, but there is a .NET implementation, .liquid. Handlebars has a .NET implementation, handlesbar.net, and Dust has no .NET implementation. From what I tried all of them, and Dust looked the best to me. It was the most useful, the simplest to use, and most features and easy to understand. But the issue with Dust is that there is no .NET implementation. Then there is Liquid and Handlebars. The only difference between the two is that Liquid, to support collections, is more codey. Like you have to do for loops, and it's not as succinct as in Handlebars. It's much more code to write to support loops, for instance. Otherwise, they look almost exactly the same. So, so I decided to use Handlebars because also the .NET implementation, and why use an existing framework? Because we have our own in Orchard 1, because they are just better than what we have in Orchard 1. And now I have used them. It's like, yes, I don't even understand why. Well, I think I know why we had one in Orchard 1, but I think it's good to use what is already existing. We don't have to re-implement anything. It's probably also faster what it's doing right now, and there is documentation. So let me Google that again. Handlebars. So this is a JavaScript site, but everything which is defined here applies to handlesbar.net, and you can see how it works. For instance, injecting without escaping the body property or the title property, which are issued from the context when we call the tokenizer. This is extensibility through JavaScript, so we don't care about it. Here, nice thing, if list is a collection, well, list is a context which is a collection, it can have a parameter, and the dash here just says apply the inner pattern for each of the items, and then you see you can have an inner pattern which will be repeated. So if the object is that, then it will repeat the inner pattern for every item here, and in the end you can do something like this. Or you can define another separator like a comma, and so it's, for instance, let's say we have tags as a context, we can iterate over tags and render a nice layout based on the tags we have, the collection we have. In Orchard 1, we had to create a custom token just to be able to render tags, and with parameters to define how to render tags, like the separator or things like that. So it was much harder, if not impossible, to render anything. With this thing now, any user can define their own result, and it's documented. There are examples. So it's like, so if we want to tell the user, hey, it's handlebars, go to read the doc and you will understand how it works, fine. They will be able to do that. So this is an example here, also with a list of things. Yep. So faster, more things, less code for us. So all good, and still extensible. So how did I extend it? I created a standard tokens class here, which is just extension method. So far, there is no support for documenting it. It will need that, so we can display a pop-up with all the available tokens, right? But so far, it was just to make it work. So the date format is that in this module, in the startup, I just say register standard tokens, which is just a link to this call, which will resolve handlebars directly. We are not hiding it behind interface. We say it's handlebars in the context of the extensions for tokens. Okay, a client for tokens doesn't know it's handlebars, but all the ones which will provide extensions for tokens will know it's handlebars and use all the possibilities of handlebars. So here, I'm just so the date format, I'm resolving the iClock. Okay, I'm getting, so I did it like perfectly, in meaning I resolve the iClock from Orchard, I resolve the time zone from the site settings, and then I convert the UTC into the time zone of the site, and then just call toString on the date time. See, toString with the format that is taken from the arguments. The arguments being the thing that are on the right of the helper, which is here date format. Okay. And the other one is the content module for tokens, which will contain, in this case, slug. Slug will access the item metadata, get the display text, and do a simple replace all spaces by dashes, which is wrong because we have a better method right now in Orchard 1, which I will take, but it was just to make sure it was working fine with a simple example. Okay. And how do I pass the content when I, the content dot something is just that in the Autoroute module, Autoroute module, handlers, when the content is updated, so we validated the form, if there is a pattern in the part settings, then tokenizer, which is the one from abstractions, create view model gives me a dynamic object. I say dot content because it's the same logic as shapes. To define the property content, I can just do content equals or call the method content. Part.content item, so I pass the content item as the content property, and then we call tokenize with the context. And this way the dot content, lowercase or uppercase, it's case insensitive, will be called, and we can do dot on that all we want. Handlebar, so view is just in JavaScript, and it's to also not just view as template support for sure, and probably it's handlebars. I'm not sure, but probably Vue.js is using handlebars too, or something very similar. But at least there is no Vue.js.net that will just support the templating, and we don't care about the view model matching, view model binding. Sorry. So here is just the server side for tokens, okay? It's not for the client side. It's just for tokens on the server side. So Vue.js is a different thing. Vue.js is like Knockout, Angular, and so on. Other questions I missed? Oh, Bertrand, did you say you were using Dust in Descent? I don't remember. You told me.
Yeah, but since the whole thing is JavaScript, I chose it because it has some nice extensibility tricks that I can actually use. But yeah.
So let me show you Dust. If anyone wants to implement Dust on .NET, okay. Let me show you. So look at that. It's almost exactly like handlebars, but with one curly brace instead of two. I actually like well, you can change it if you want. I actually like the two because it will let us inject that even in scripts, because we mostly don't have two curly brace together. So it's the same thing. There are some helpers like sep, which will have a different behavior in the sub templates. Like this one will be just for between items. So you don't repeat the comma after the last item. It's just for all the items but the last and the first. What I like also with this is you can have easy flow management, like if equal, if less than, and so on, by tagging. And the best thing I liked was the filters, how you pipeline filters. So let's say you have, I want more example of filters. Well, let's say you have a title property, you do pipe s, it will call the s function, let's say, and this is a result of the s function that will be applied. So you can do title, pipe s, pipe something. So for instance, title, pipe trim, pipe lowercase, pipe titleize, something like this. So it's easier. In handlebars, you have to do inner context. So you will do title, and you open the parents, and you call another one with parameters, and then you open the parents, and so on. So it's like function calls, explicit function calls. So the syntax was better in Dust also, so I prefer this one. But there is no .NET implementation, so handlebars is the best so far. Liquid also has the same logic with pipes, which is nice, but again, for loops in Liquid, let's look at it. Liquid. For loops, it's more cumbersome. You see, for item in user type, it's more coding, and that's kind of sad. A template engine that requires coding. So here it was the same. Even filters are nice, but for loops, it looks more codey. So. But we could imagine a different tokens implementation that will use Liquid. It's just that your templates have to use this syntax. So that's fine, that will work. Good. Something else, very important change, which can be discussed. So maybe I'm completely wrong, and please let me know that I'm wrong. I did something very, very bad. You see Autoroute. What is the thing you don't see?
Alias.
You don't see alias. I did something bad. I removed alias. So let me know if I should not have removed alias. But my logic is this one. I looked at alias like for 4 hours in a row just to understand how it was working, because it was always a mystery. I knew some things, but really understanding how it worked. Because historically, Louis had done half of the module and then left the team, and Pete Hurst finished the module. So when we shipped it, it was working, so I never looked at it really how it was working. And nobody, I assume, knows how it was working, but it was working. The goal of alias is to match an MVC route, as in route value dictionaries, controller, action, ID, whatever, to a path. And the opposite. When you have a path, find the actual route. So it's a double index, okay? Bidirectional index. That's it. Matching path and routes. And there is a service which will index the routes, so that when you provide a route, you will find the matching route easily. So it's doing a tree. It's creating a tree of nodes, and each node represents a value of any properties in a route dictionary. So it's indexing a route dictionary. And then we have Autoroute, which when it generates a path, it can generate a path automatically, and also update aliases by saying, hey, I updated the path of this content item, so alias, please register this new path, and the route will be content item display this ID. Okay, so whenever then we were looking for a path, the alias will give us content item display ID1, content item display ID2, and so on. Okay, so in the end, the index in the alias was mostly with content item display and an ID in the end. But Elias is supposed to support many more routes. I didn't find, maybe there are, but I didn't find any example where we will use Elias out of Autoroute. And Autoroute is only handling content item display ID. Am I wrong? Now Siaman is typing something, so I broke his features, I'm sure. So if I'm not wrong, because I checked the code and only Autoroute was using it, I'm like, yeah, that's different. So, I'm like, so why do we need Elias? Because the Autoroute can do it. So now the Autoroute has, well, first, why do we need a tree if in the end the nodes are all the same? Controller is always contents, action is always display, and so on. Okay, and then the only variation is the ID. So I just made a dictionary, a double dictionary, one from path to ID and one from ID to path. And this is what we had in the alias called alias table or alias list, something like this, alias map, something like this. And then we had a alias holder, which was a singleton holding all the aliases. So I made the same thing, but in Autoroute directly. It's called Autoroute entries. It's a dictionary of int to string and string to it. Okay. It's a service, just in case you want to write it and at least to share the state as a singleton, because this is a singleton per tenant. So you can get an item by content, you can get a content item ID by path, you can get a path by content item ID, you can add entries, remove entries, and that's it. And then the Autoroute itself, when it generates a new route, for instance, update, yes, on the driver, somewhere. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Add entries. On startup. Only? No. Oh, extension methods. Okay. To make it simpler. Okay. On publish. When the item is published, well, let's define the new entry for this content item. This is the path. And when it's unpublished, let's remove the entry from the list of available URLs. That's it. And on startup, it's much better actually. On startup, what I'm doing is I load all the Autoroute part index, because every Autoroute is indexed. So I'm just loading the result of the index, and I add the entries on startup. So that's very easy. So there is no more need for alias. It's faster, it's simpler, and it has all the same features that we were using. So does anyone complain about removing alias? Siaman saying about IDs, same thing. For the IDs, the Autoroute, content item identities. So for the identity, you will see the get content item metadata. So when we ask for the metadata of an Autoroute, we can say, oh, it has the alias. I call it alias just because in Autoroute it was alias. It could be called URL, path, whatever, but who cares? And I set the path. So now, because we have an Autoroute, we can say, well, it has a path, so let's assign it to the identity. It will be unique because Autoroute defines itself the unicity of a path, because you can only have one path per content item ID, and one ID as one path because of this thing. So that's it. Also, because of SQL, I didn't. Oh, well, because of SQL, I haven't made a service yet. But remember, in the Orchard one, we have a alias auto updater or alias updater service, which will update aliases across nodes in a form. Same thing here, much better here. I haven't done the service, but it's much easier, because whenever we update an alias, like even changing the path of an existing Autoroute or an existing content item, Orchard reindexes it. So because it says, hey, there is a new, so content item has been updated. Okay, so let's get the path and create a new Autoroute part, okay? Oh, sorry, Autoroute part index. And this thing will have a new record. So we just have to read the new ones since last time we read the database, and we'll get all the updated path. So that will be easier. Just implement it. detail. But that's it. Okay. Questions? Okay, so no change for identity, even if we don't have alias. It's still called alias, but it's a path. We can call it path or URL or slug, whatever. I don't care. It's just an identity. Autoroute works. We have tokens. All of these modules are not 100% done. They just work so far. They have bugs. They are not complete. The slug is wrong. Tokens need some UI. Autoroute has some bugs for sure. Things which are not implemented, but we have, let's say, 80% of the features there, and it's validated in the way that it works. And yeah. No, it doesn't affect anything. So good. Nobody, because I was afraid I would break something I would not think about, but so far, alias is good. Good. And the home page is already handled differently. Home page, there is a home page route. So Autoroute doesn't care about home page. If you try to define an empty path, it has to fail, saying no, Autoroute doesn't support empty path. If you want to define the empty path, use the home page feature, which will be a checkbox or something to define what the home page is. So it will still have its path. Like if I want my blog to be home page, the blog content item will still have a slug called maybe /blog, but it will be the home page. So resolving the root of the site will go to this content item. It happens that also doing /blog will resolve this, unless we say, oh, it's the home page, so we don't want to resolve that. Let's redirect to the home page. But there are two different things. I don't want them to be mixed, and I think Sipke will agree, because this is what he did in later on Orchard 1, splitting the two, having custom homepage service. Now the homepage is defined by the site settings, which has a route value collection for the homepage. Okay. If you want to get the home page, you can get the home route property on the site object, which can be also defined by the recipe. And this is what we do in the setup recipe for the default one. Let me show you as a reminder. Here, one of the steps is, the home route is index home demo. Okay, and we have a custom route for home, which will find the one from the setting. And talking about routes, for the auto route, we also register a new auto route, one per tenant, which will contain a link to the entries, which contains all the mappings from IDs and path, and that's it. And this one will handle if we match the content item display, and on the opposite way, if we have an ID, it will generate the correct route. Okay? Well, if we have a path, it will generate the correct route. So that's it. And I think that's already too much. Okay, good. It's recorded. You can watch it later. Other topics. Harvest. George. Harvest.
Yes, Harvest.
Status.
I think Rob was supposed to secure the room. I haven't seen any email come back from him about that, so maybe I'll give her a call today. But I think we're doing in New York. That's what it looks like. So stand by. We'll have confirmation next week.
So the status is we just need a confirmation for that we have the room, but we said we were okay. Everyone is okay with that. So this. It's not official because we don't have the confirmation for the room, but we asked for the room. And last time we talked to her, it was the room. So it will be New York. It will be February. I never know the dates.
I can pull them up for you. It's like it's the last weekend in February. It's the weekend after President's Day, I think. Yeah.
So I think it's 22 and 23rd, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's 21, 22. It's around there. It's a Tuesday. And Wednesday. Okay, this is important. It's not a Monday, Tuesday. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, because Monday is President Day. whoever will the president be. Okay. President Day. And this way, it's a holiday in the States, and this way people will have 2 or 3 days weekend if they want to enjoy New York. I checked with George. He says that everything is open on President Day, so that's good. But in case we don't do it on Monday, because for instance the videographers, maybe they won't work on the President Day, so let's be sure and do it on Tuesday, Wednesday. So dates confirmed, 22, 23.
Pack a sweater. It's going to be cold, or not, depending on the on climate change. I've been in New York in February when it's been almost tropical.
So no, it's 21, 22. Okay, so it's 21, 22. I checked the flights also. Rob did that from the UK. It seems that from UK, I'm not sure from all Europe, it was more expensive on the Saturday and the Sunday. From the US, I checked from Los Angeles and from Seattle, it was the same price, whatever the date you decide to take your plane, and it was kind of cheap, around $300 for the back and forth from Los Angeles and Seattle. Hotel rooms will be, so right now the conference room we want is Hilton Midtown. Okay, it's just south of Central Park. So Hilton Midtown.
It's south of Central Park and right north of Times Square, so it's an excellent location. There's a lot of stuff that's very walkable.
Very close to the Trump Tower, if you want to pay a visit.
It's not that
right,
close.
right.
No, it's it's a few blocks away, I think.
Yeah, but no, that's walking distance.
Everything in Midtown's walking distance.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
it's a great location. Macy's is there. Times Square is there. Bryant Park is very close. Fifth Avenue is not too far. There's a lot of the Museum of Modern Art is right around the corner. There's a lot of cool stuff to do around there. And then the subway, you can go anywhere in 10 minutes.
There will be an organized visit by George. Organized tour. How do you say tour? Okay. You see, because he knows everything. Oh, thank you, Antoine. I should have checked. It will be cold for sure. Don't worry. Oh, what? Oh, yes. I wanted also to say, hotel rooms should be around $200 in the hotel from preferred prices, and yeah, I checked the prices, and they should be around that. This is the price I see also in the internet, so that should be around that. Hotels, let's say 300 for flights. So, and even from Europe, it should be quite cheap to go to New York. Guys, please check. I'm not sure, right, from Paris, from Hungary, I don't know. Yeah, tell me also, Soteris, if you have some ideas from Europe, just to have an idea, because I know from the States to go to Alicante, it would be like $1,000, something like that. It was kind of expensive.
It was $1,100 from LA. So
yeah. So
and New York is easy to get. It's a trunk route for many airlines, so a lot of people end up connecting through there. There's always a good deal. I think there's a good Vayama is a good international travel site. Kayak is a good site. I mean,
yeah, I use Kayak mostly.
Yeah, so it should be. It's easy to get to. And
Yep. Okay. So that's the final dates, and as we get the confirmation from the Hilton, and I have the funding, so I also have that secured. So that will be done. That's good. Questions? Okay, because it's time. Sorry, I took a lot of time to explain the new modules. Okay. Brett, do you want to go to New York? I'm sure you have never been there. I'm sure he's listening. Yeah, I see.
I would love to go to New York.
Yeah, it's better than Tokyo.
I don't know about that.
Similar, yeah.
I don't know about that.
No, I strongly disagree with that.
Okay.
I don't know about
Just
that.
teasing Brett, who's just coming back from Tokyo.
They're two of my favorite cities in the world, but I know it'd be hard to pick one.
Oh, so
I was born in
years?
New York.
in
I
2
was
years,
born in New York, so I'm
Oh,
happy to
sorry.
go back there.
in 2 years, let's do Tokyo.
I agree with that. Actually, I'll be in Tokyo next month.
Well, interesting. Okay, good. If there are no questions, then goodbye. See you next Thursday.
See you then.
Yeah, well, look at that. Zoltan says $500 from Budapest. I think it's cheap, right? Even going to Seattle is much more expensive.
Yeah, it's much more cheaper.
Yeah.
I've got a quick
Right.
question.
Yep.
So what's the registration process for this? I know there's
So,
a sign
yeah.
up for last year. We got anything
So
similar?
Now the task on our side is to create quickly a static page to have all the information available. So we have time to work on a real site with all the speakers and everything, but at least to provide all the information, location, date, and registration. I will create an Eventbrite like last year.
Okay.
So people can do that, and the Net Foundation will get we'll do the invoicing for Eventbrite. So if you need invoices or things like this will be the Net Foundation, and that's it. I think that, yeah.
Sure.
So and yeah, as soon as we have the confirmation, we can set it up. Before we can't because we never know.
Yeah, I understand. Just making sure though.
So that's it, and it will be very expensive. That's fine for you?
What?
It will be very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, between the hotel rooms and flights and all that, I see that.
I mean, the
about,
tickets.
What are the tickets this year?
I don't know. We'll have to talk about it.
Well, anyway, yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, good. Road trip. Yeah, you guys can do that. Free road trip. You just have to pay for the tires, right?
I'll fly and meet you there.